Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English with Sarah and James, your go-to podcast for improving your intermediate English skills. I'm Sarah.
And I'm James. It's great to be with you all again. We always aim to make learning English practical and enjoyable.
Absolutely, James. And today, we're tackling a scenario that many of our listeners might find a little daunting: checking in at the airport airline counter. It's a situation filled with specific vocabulary and procedures, isn't it, James?
It certainly is, Sarah. But don't worry, listeners. By the end of this episode, you'll feel much more confident. We'll cover essential phrases, common questions, and some key vocabulary to help you navigate the check-in process like a pro.
That's right. So, imagine you've just arrived at the airport, you've found your airline's check-in area, and you're approaching the counter. What happens next? Let's dive into that. So, James, you were flying recently, weren't you? How was your check-in experience? Was it smooth sailing?
Thankfully, yes, it was pretty smooth sailing this time. That's a good idiom, by the way, Sarah. Smooth sailing means everything went easily and without problems. But I've definitely had trickier check-ins in the past.
Oh, I can imagine. What are some of the common things passengers need to communicate at the check-in counter? I always tell my students to have their passport and ticket ready.
Definitely. The check-in agent will almost always ask for your passport and booking confirmation or e-ticket. Then they'll ask about your luggage. How many bags are you checking in today is a very common question.
And that's where students sometimes get confused between checked luggage and carry-on bags. Checked luggage goes into the hold of the plane, while your carry-on bag or hand luggage stays with you in the cabin.
Precisely. And it's crucial to know your airline's baggage allowance. If your checked luggage is overweight, you might have to pay for excess baggage, and that can be quite expensive.
That's a very important point. Excess baggage. That's a key term. We should probably break that down later in our vocabulary review. What about seat preferences? Do you usually ask for a specific seat?
I always try to. I'm a window seat person. I love looking out. So I'd say something like, "Could I have a window seat, please?" Or if you prefer easy access to the aisle, you'd ask for an aisle seat. Pronunciation of aisle can be tricky. The S is silent, so it's pronounced aisle.
Good tip on the pronunciation there, James. And sometimes, if you're flying with a partner or friend, you might want to ask, "Can we sit together?"
Exactly. Then the agent will print your boarding pass. This is your golden ticket to get on the plane. It shows your flight number, seat assignment, boarding time, and gate number. Make sure to check it carefully.
Absolutely. And what if you have a connecting flight? That can add another layer of complexity.
It can. You should confirm that your luggage is checked through to your final destination. You can ask, "Is my luggage checked through to your final destination?" Or, "Do I need to collect my bags at the connecting airport?"
That's a great question to ask. And if you have anything fragile in your checked luggage, it's a good idea to let the agent know. They might put a fragile sticker on your bag. It's Fragile. It means easily broken or damaged.
Yes, good point. And once you have your boarding pass and your bags are checked in, the agent will usually tell you which gate to go to and your boarding time. Sometimes they'll also remind you about security procedures. It's always good to listen carefully.
So to sum up the check-in counter interaction, it's usually about your ticket, passport, luggage, seat preference, and then getting your boarding pass and directions to the gate. It sounds manageable when you break it down, doesn't it, James?
It really does. Preparation is key, and knowing some of these phrases can make a huge difference. You don't want to be cutting it close with your flight because you're struggling to communicate. Cutting it close means leaving yourself very little time to do something.
Another excellent idiom. Thanks, James. Now, I think it's a good time to review some of the key vocabulary and phrases we've discussed. That will help our listeners really lock in this useful language.
All right, let's do that. We've used quite a few useful terms. Sarah, why don't you kick us off with the first one?
Sounds good, James. Let's start with boarding pass. A boarding pass is an official document that you need to show to get on an airplane. It usually has your name, flight number, seat number, gate number, and boarding time. For example, you might hear the check-in agent say, "Here's your boarding pass. Your flight boards at gate 23 at 7 p.m."
And how about the pronunciation, Sarah? Boarding pass.
Good point. Boarding has two syllables with a stress on the first syllable, boarding. And pass has a short ah sound, like in cat. So boarding pass. It's quite straightforward once you break it down. Related to this, you might also have an e-ticket, which is an electronic ticket, often on your phone. The boarding pass is what you get after you check in, either printed or on your phone too.
That's a clear explanation. Next up, let's talk about excess baggage. This is a term nobody wants to hear at the check-in counter. Excess baggage refers to luggage that is heavier or larger than the airline's stated limits. If you have excess baggage, you usually have to pay an extra fee.
That's right. For instance, you could say, I had to pay $100 for excess baggage because my suitcase was 5 kilograms overweight. Or the check-in agent might warn you, I'm afraid your bag is overweight, so there will be an excess baggage charge.
And for pronunciation, excess has the stress on the second syllable, excess. And baggage has the stress on the first syllable, baggage. So excess, baggage. It's important to check the airline's baggage allowance before you fly to avoid this. A synonym for excess baggage could be overweight luggage.
Excellent. Now, let's discuss seat preferences, specifically aisle seat and window seat. We touched on this earlier. An aisle seat is a seat next to the aisle, which is the walkway between rows of seats on a plane. A window seat is a seat next to the window.
And the pronunciation of aisle is key here, as we mentioned. It's aisle. The S is completely silent, so aisle seat. You might say, I prefer an aisle seat so I can stretch my legs. Or could I get a window seat to enjoy the view?
Exactly. And if you don't specify, the check-in agent might ask you, would you prefer a window seat or an aisle seat? Knowing these terms helps you get the seat you want, making your flight more comfortable. Some people also like the middle seat if they're traveling with family, but it's usually the least popular.
Very true. Okay, for our final vocabulary item, let's look at connecting flight. A connecting flight is a flight that requires you to change planes at an intermediate airport before reaching your final destination. For example, I have a connecting flight in Amsterdam on my way to Berlin.
And when you have a connecting flight, it's also common to hear the term layover. A layover is the period of time you spend at the connecting airport. So you might say, I have a 3-hour layover in Dubai. The pronunciation of connecting is connecting with the stress on the second syllable, connecting flight.
That's right. And it's crucial, as we said, to ask if your bags are checked through to your final destination if you have a connecting flight. This means your luggage will be automatically transferred from one plane to the next, and you won't need to collect it and check it in again during your layover. You could ask, is my luggage checked through to my final destination? Or, do I need to recheck my luggage during my layover? A direct flight, on the other hand, takes you straight to your destination without any stops or changes.
Those are all incredibly useful terms, James. I hope our listeners are finding this breakdown helpful. Practicing these words and phrases will definitely make the check-in process less stressful.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the end of our main discussion on airport check-in. We've covered quite a bit today.
We certainly have. The key takeaways for our listeners are to be prepared with your documents, understand the common questions and phrases used at the check-in counter, and don't be afraid to ask for clarification if you need it. Remember, the airline staff are there to help you.
That's right. And practice makes perfect. Try role-playing these conversations, maybe with a friend or even by yourself. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
We hope this episode of English with Sarah and James has equipped you with the language you need for a smoother airport experience. Keep practicing, keep learning, and don't forget to join us next time for more practical English.
Until then, happy travels and happy learning. Bye for now.